My name is Tim Haas. I am the clarinet professor here at Grand Canyon University, and I'm going to help walk you through etude number 1 for low clarinet. So in this piece, it's marked in 3/8, and it's marked giocoso, which means lively. It's marked at dotted quarter equals 60. Highly recommend when you start doing this, you take the 8th note for the beat. It's going to make it a lot easier to figure things out. It's also going to make it really easy from the 3/8 to the 4/8 transition. There's a 4/8 bar that happens at bar 10. It's going to make it a little easier in the beginning stages to do that. Dynamically, you want to watch out for your dynamics right away. So it starts at forte, comes down to mezzo piano on the first 2 bars, then immediately back up to forte at 3, so subito forte, and then it comes way down to piano, and then we have a big build at 10, a crescendo from piano to fortissimo, which is huge. So I want to be sure we're bringing that out all the way through here. I want to be sure rhythm-wise that we're keeping the 3/8 character all good all the way throughout here. Also, there are accents and staccatos interspersed throughout this too as well. I want to be sure that we're doing all those all the way through here. As far as playing this slowly with the 8th note, I want to demonstrate real quickly a few bars here. So the 8th note for the beat, if we're taking the dotted quarter note at 60, the 8th note is going to be at 180. I'm going to take it half tempo. I think it's always good to play stuff a little slow to start. And I'm going to take that at 90. And so with the 8th note, the beginning would sound a little bit like this. So it's a lot easier to think of that way in beginning stages. And it's also good to play stuff slow. Slow practice is always really, really, really good. Some pinky stuff to watch out for a little bit in measures 9 and 10. So you have in measure 9, we have a C on the last 8th note. And the second 16th note of measure 10, we have a C there too as well. I want to be sure we're playing that on the left hand over here because we have an E flat and 10. So we can only play E flat on the right hand. So there's some tips for low clarinet etude number 1. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. So looking at the low clarinet etude number 2, there's a lot of ink on the page. There's a lot of 30-second notes written all the way throughout here. But if you look at the tempo at the beginning, it's only 8th note equals 72. It is quite slow. So just keep that in mind as you start working on this etude. It can be really easy when we see a lot of ink on the page to kind of panic and think it's really, really fast. In this case, it's not. So this is the slow etude of the 3 regional etudes. So we want to really focus on our tone, try to make sure we're doing the best possible sound that we possibly can for every note that we play. There are some big dynamic changes toward the end, especially the crescendo from 7 to 9 is really, really big, and we want to make a lot out of that. All the way through here, it's in 3 flats, so we want to be sure we're watching our flats really, really carefully all through here. Definitely recommend marking all of your flats in here. I recommend that for all the etudes you're working on. Just mark them all in there. If they're in there, you're not going to miss them. And all the way through this, we want to be sure we're connecting the dots as much as possible, being as musical as we can, doing a lot with the dynamics, but also being sure the parts where we don't have dynamic contrast, that we're shaping it a little bit, that we're doing a little bit of making the music go somewhere and come from somewhere in both of those bars. If you listen to my recording, you're going to hear how that works. So there's some tips for you on low clarinet etude number 2. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. So this is the technical etude of the regional audition. And there's some stuff that I want to draw your attention to throughout this piece. There's a lot of stuff involved with pinkies in this. It starts right with the first note. So the first note, we go F sharp to C sharp. You're going to want to be sure you're playing the F sharp on the right hand. So the C sharp, we can only play that on the left. So we want to be sure we've got that right away. Also, we have a couple times in this piece we are going to have to slide our fingers on the same hand. This does not happen very often on the clarinet or the bass clarinet. We have pinkies on the right hand and on the left hand to avoid such problems. But sometimes we have finger combinations where we have to do it. So at the end of the first measure, the last note of the first measure, we have a G sharp, and the next note we have an F sharp. And then after that, we have a C sharp. So we have to be sure that the second note of measure 2, the C sharp, we can only play in the left hand. So, and we can only play the first G sharp on the right hand. So what we want to do is we want to play the G sharp on the right hand and then slide our finger down to the F sharp. So I'm going to play a little under tempo. I'm going to play the first measure and show you kind of how that works. So you can see I'm sliding down there for that there too as well. So this happens a couple other times in the piece too as well. Go from measure 5 to measure 6 happens there, and go from measure 8 to measure 9 it happens there. So definitely want to keep an eye out for that. Definitely want to mark that in your music. I mark R's and L's in my music all the time to help me with pinkies all the way through here. Dynamically, it starts forte, then immediately on the 4th beat, it's mezzo piano. So we have a subito mezzo piano there, and then we build it back up again. At measure 3, we have another subito mezzo piano, so we want to be sure we disappear there too as well. And then at 4, we have a forte that over 2 bars, diminuendo poco a poco, which means get softer little by little. So those 2 bars, we want to be sure we're very slowly getting softer all the way through here. And then builds at the end. At measure 8, we have a crescendo de mezzo forte at measure 8, and 9 it builds to forte all the way throughout there too as well. Okay, all the way through here. Want to be sure you're watching your articulations very, very, very carefully. Okay, being sure we tongue where we're supposed to, slow where we're supposed to. Sometimes it doesn't always line up the way you think it would. So, also some articulations to watch out for it. 6, 7, 8, the triplets. So at 6, we've got the triplets written as staccatos. 7, we have a staccatos. At 8, it switches to legato. So you want to make a clear change in your articulation there too as well. Definitely recommend practicing slowly to start, very slowly to start, to be sure everything is good in here, and slowly working this up. You will play this etude twice if you go to the All-State audition. This is asked on the All-State audition as well. With all of your etudes, we want to be sure that whatever tempo you take that, it's a tempo where you can play everything comfortably and you sound your best at. If 88 is a little sloppy, it's better to take it a little bit slower and have it be clean. That's going to get you more points on the audition. So there's some tips for regional etude number 3 for low clarinet. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. Beginning, this is marked scherzando, which means playfully. So we want to bring out the playful quality of this as we play it. So this one moves at a pretty good clip. Definitely want to recommend that you take this as slower tempo to start. It's in 6/8. It's marked dotted chord note equals 63. Definitely would recommend taking the 8th note for the beat to start. Just a little easier to count that way and a little easier to figure things out all the way through here. So just to demonstrate what that would sound like, this is 100 for the 8th note. So if we think the equivalent 8th note to dotted chord note equals 63, that'd be 189. So it's about a little bit above half tempo. So a little easier to count that way, a little easier to kind of figure out what's going on here at the beginning stages. There are some big dynamic shifts in this piece. So at measure 3 of mezzo piano, then at 4, on the second beat of 4, all of a sudden it's forte. So you want to be sure to really bring that out. And then we go to 5, it's back down to mezzo piano again. And then at 6, it's back up to the forte again. So some big shifts, and we want to be sure they're very sudden all the way throughout there. And all of the crescendos and decrescendos, we want to be sure we're doing a lot with that too as well. At the very end, we want to be sure that at end of measure 11, you get down to a piano. Don't get the softest you can go quite yet, because you want to be sure that happens in bar 12 all the way through here. You want to definitely mark all of your accidentals throughout here. There's a lot of them all the way throughout this piece. There's 2 flats, but a lot of stuff that carries through the bar too as well, and you want to just really be careful about that all the way through here. The goal eventually is, as you start to get this faster, is to make it sound like it's in 6/8. Bum, 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 ba da 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 dum, bum, bum, ba da be da be da bum. Want to have that 6/8 feel. Will help with the playful character of the piece too as well. So there's some tips for you on low clarinet etude number 4. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. So of the all-state progression of etudes, which are 3, 4, and 5, this is going to be the slow one. So it's marked aggiato, which means slightly faster than adagio, so about 66 beats a minute. There are some stuff with the pinkies that I want to draw your attention to. The first one happens at measure 2. So we have at the end of the slur, we have an A flat and an E flat under a slur. You're going to want to re-articulate the low E flat to give your pinky a chance to jump there. It's a tricky jump there. And if you try to slur it, you're going to get an extra note in there. So you're going to have to re-articulate that bottom note. Sometimes that comes up when we have pinky problems on some of the lower notes here. In measure 5, on the triplets, you want to be sure that when we hit the third note of the triplet, the D flat, that we're playing on the right hand, and then we go to C on the left and E flat on the right. So kind of a weird pinky pattern written there too as well. Dynamically, you want to be sure you're really paying attention to dynamics and really, really, really doing them, especially the big crescendo that happens at measure 6, the big crescendo that happens at the end of measure 9. You want to be sure you're doing exactly what it says on the page. At the end, it slowly gets softer. So at 10, it starts forte. Then we take a breath, and then it starts at mezzo forte. Then it goes down to mezzo forte. And 11, we take another breath, and it goes to mezzo piano. There's a fermata at the end of measure 11. I like to hold this maybe a little longer than I think I should, just to let it hang there for a little bit before moving on to the last note. And I take that last note and really try to fade it out. Be sure that last note you're holding it a full 4 beats until the very, very end. All right? This piece should not feel rushed. Should feel nice and relaxed all the way throughout here. You can push and pull a little bit with some of the tempos a little bit. You want to be sure you bring out as much musicality with this etude as you possibly can. So there's some tips for you on low clarinet etude number 5. Hopefully this has been helpful.